Tennessee got embarrassed by Florida 47-21 on Saturday night. Blake Tutmeyer with John Adams and Mike Wilson of the News Sentinel to break it down. John, where did things, obviously turnovers, but that's where things went wrong. But just, I guess, was it surprising to see how poorly Tennessee competed tonight?
Very much so, but I mean, I really think this team is getting worse. You would think maybe with the coaching transition, new staff, you'd see some progress from game to game. Maybe not wins, but I thought the worst it looked previously was last week against Utah, a really bad team, and 24-0 win. But then tonight was just even worse.
Mike, I was kind of surprised by Jeremy Pruitt's post game. I thought we were going to see a really hot Pruitt in there, very frustrated. He didn't come across that way. In fact, he found a silver lining in this game and said, well, guys were competing hard. That's something. I mean, what was your take on all that?
It was bizarre. I mean, I went in there expecting maybe I shouldn't sit in the front row. Things might get thrown around. I mean, he kicked a whiteboard during the game, for goodness sake. But no, he came in there and talked about liking the look in his players' eyes and the way they competed. I wasn't on the sideline, obviously, but the way they played in the field didn't look that way.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way they opened the second half, fumbling a kickoff, whiffing 3 tackle attempts on Jordan Scarlett, just kind of bouncing off of it. It was kind of pathetic, I thought. I thought they'd given up at that point. But apparently Jeremy Pruitt liked the look in their eyes.
John, that comment to me felt like it's time to play some spin game here. And it was kind of a subtle reminder of, well, don't forget what I inherited. Like, at least these guys are competing now. And I thought that was kind of an interesting pivot to sort of that mode of like, well, look at what I took over. Look at what my predecessor left me. Does that strike that way to you?
And I didn't really think about that when I heard him. It was more like Mike's reaction. I just thought it was so odd. I mean, I would never talk about how a team was competing when it got beaten as badly as this one. And Mike alluded to, as bad as the first half was, you get an intermission, you come back out there, and you fumble on contact, and then Florida heads the ball to Jordan Scarlett, I think it was, and he just runs through a paper-mache defense. And there was Florida broke some long plays. And I didn't see a very competitive team at all. It just a team stumbling around out there, one mistake after another. It was awful.
You know, I wrote one of my stories after the game. It almost feels like now it's already wait till next year. I mean, you look at this stretch coming up, and I know we're only 4 games into the season, but is it fair to say that, I mean, this could turn really ugly real fast for Tennessee this year?
Yeah, it could be a 3-9 team. I mean, this team looks worse than last year's team to me.
Mike, is there anything to say that if you take away the turnovers that, well, maybe it's a different game? I mean, can you add that like caveat onto this, or was it just such a mess that you can't even?
I mean, maybe look at Austin
asterisk.
Pope's turnover.
Yeah.
55-yard gain, fumbles on the 4-yard line out the end zone. I mean, that is a play that certainly can change that. I thought it was interesting when they were conservative, kicking on 4th and 2, pretty deep in Florida territory, then going for an onside kick. You recover that onside kick, it's 14-3, you're right around midfield. There's potential the game looks different, but they just couldn't get out of their own way. And it was that way against UTEP last week. It was the mistakes, the turnovers. They don't have a big margin for error, and they're making it worse with all the mistakes they're making.
And when you start doing things like that, Blake, you really sort of confirm that you're just an awful team when you start playing that kind of game.
Mm-hmm. Once again, final score 47-21. For all the coverage of the game, go to GoVolsExtra.com.